First to you, this reaction from the French president, what did you make of it? I mean, obviously, they were never going to be... I think we've got a link problem with Emma. Let's go to Kerry for her thoughts, and we'll get that link to Emma sorted. Kerry, your thoughts on this fiery reaction from Emmanuel Macron? He's continued with that line of attack, hasn't he, there in Rome?
Yeah, he's certainly got his nose out of joint, Kieran, and I can understand, given the size of the contract, why that might be the case. I am somewhat bemused, though, by some of the reaction, maybe in the media, maybe politically, which has automatically assumed that, Mr Macron is telling the truth, and when the Prime Minister says, no, it didn't happen, he's obviously lying. So I'm not sure that we can make those assumptions. I think that's a little unfair. I suspect what there is there's probably been a level of misunderstanding. I don't think Mr Morrison speaks French, and I know that Mr Macron speaks very good English, but maybe there was a misinterpretation of what was said at the Palais Élysée.
Lost in translation, maybe. Emma, I'll tell you what's not lost in translation. Emma, one thing that wasn't lost in translation was the return of serve from President Macron, particularly when he called the Prime Minister a liar.
Yeah. And it was pretty unequivocal and pretty remarkable. I don't think I can recall such an open statement of mistrust from a clear ally of Australia's for a long time. And Kerry's, right, we don't know who said what, but I think now we've had the President of the US say he was misled about the situation, and the President of France actually go as far as to say, I know the Prime Minister lied to me. And I think one of the problems we have here is that the Prime Minister's word is becoming increasingly untrustworthy, not just in the domestic sphere, but internationally. And that has significant ramifications for our nation.
Emma, is there a political risk, though, for Labor piling in when it's an international, or foreign leader having a crack at our Prime Minister?
Is there a political risk? I think there's a greater political risk to our nation if we are handling our international diplomatic relationships with countries as important as France. France is a major Pacific power, and it is a major player in Europe. In fact, Macron now, with the departure of Angela Merkel, is probably the most powerful leader in Europe. So I'm much more concerned about the risk to Australia of mangling that or bungling that diplomatic relationship than I am to any domestic risk that Labor may overstep its mark here. I think Penny Wong's comments today were quite measured. This is about trust. It's about, as the French president said, being true to our word. And I think it's only right for the alternative party of government to express significant concerns when two of our major allies, the US and France, have effectively accused our Prime Minister of misleading them in relation to a major international diplomatic incident.
Kerry, if the Prime Minister is trying to cool things down, that's not been the reaction from the acting Prime Minister, Mr Joyce. He says, look, we didn't steal an island, we didn't deface the Eiffel Tower. Essentially, get over it.
Yeah, look, I mean, let's ignore that rhetoric from the acting Prime Minister and let's get to the basic fact, which he did actually put in that conversation as well. He purports to, he said that there is a contract here and the contract provided for opportunities for us as a nation to actually get out of that contract. And I think we're missing the big picture here. I mean, the big picture here is what the Australian government has done, and they keep saying this quite regularly, what they've done, they're saying is they're getting into a better relationship, a better contract, a better product for the nation. I mean, there were so many problems with the French subs, and we all know that, and we know that that was a very expensive problem, and it wasn't looking to be resolved anytime soon or easily. So, sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and say, look, that's not working. We will actually deal with the consequences, but let's see what we're going to have as the alternative. And I don't know, I haven't heard anyone say yet that the subs that we're actually now contracted to buy are in any way inferior to the French subs. And in fact, everyone's saying quite the opposite. They're a much superior product, which will last us for a much longer period of time.
Let's look at the climate issue now, because the Prime Minister is in Glasgow now, Kerry. He obviously is going to be making his case, Kerry Chikarovski, basically two key points. One, look at the track record, and two, this is the plan. It's got to be technology-based. To me, it looks like there's going to be a lot of other broader, bigger issues than just the Prime Minister's plan, with the likes of China, Russia and others not showing in terms of their leadership.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest issue, not just for Australia, but indeed for the world. The fact that you've got those three major powers who are basically thumbing their nose at this conference and saying, we don't want to be there. So I think if we're actually looking to get a worldwide response, and that's what, honestly, we're all trying to get to at this stage, I think Australia taking its particular form of plan, it's perfectly entitled to do that. I am a little bit perplexed by those who think that technology won't play a major role in this. Kieran, I'm not sure what happens to you, but I'm approached all the time in my day job, my role, by companies who're coming up with all sorts of innovative renewable technologies. And I think the big challenge for the government is to actually work out how they can get on board with those technologies and help those technologies come to fruition. Because I think if they do that, then technology will be significantly part of the answer.
Emma, your thoughts on how this COP is shaping up? It's certainly one of the most anticipated in recent memory.
Well, it's the 26th meeting of the countries of party to this agreement, which means we've been going at it for nearly 30 years. And I don't agree, actually, with Kerry that Australia should be compared to Russia and China and India on these issues. We are a major democracy, an English-speaking, advanced democracy, and we are dragging our heels on this issue, and we're holding the world back. And it's simply not good enough to say, oh, well, China doesn't want to show up, so we can go with a half-baked plan. Technology absolutely will be part of how we tackle climate change. How do we pay for that technology? How do we pay for a government investment in technology? Taxes. So taxes aren't ever not going to be part of this mix. The other thing to bear in mind is, yes, we have had some of the best renewable technology entrepreneurs and innovators in this country for decades, and a lot of them have been driven offshore by a complete lack of industry policy or even renewable energy targets from this government. So to now turn around and say, oh, it's all on technology, when for the last 8 years we've driven those businesses into other markets by simply not having certainty around our renewable targets is pretty rich at this point in time. It's a critical and crucial meeting for the world. This is our last best chance to get it right and ensure that our children aren't going to be living in a really inhospitable planet. And I do think that what we've seen in the images emerging from Rome and from the lead up to COP26 in the last 24 hours are our country fairly isolated. Our Prime Minister's the only one in many shots not wearing a mask, unable to forge the relationships and the conversations that he would be able to if he'd gone there with a significant commitment to 2030 targets. And it's important to note neither side of politics in this country has come out with a significant commitment to 2030 targets for emissions reductions, and that's what COP26 is all about.
Yeah, I wonder, Kerry, what's your read on that? We're heading federal election just around the corner, isn't it, in terms of our political equation. Labor, will they need to go more ambitious? I certainly think they'll have to go a fair bit further than the federal government, but they've got a lot of cover this time with the BCA, farmers, the state government in your hometown, Matt Keane, driving very hard policy by the Liberal government.
Well, I think, can I just say on that, Kieran, no one thought that the Prime Minister was going to have a target for 2050. I mean, we kept on being told by all those who are, supposedly in the know that he was never going to be able to negotiate that. And clearly that's come about because there has been significant internal pressure. And I know we're going to hear about all those, right-wing nutters in the Liberal Party who are not accepting it. But the reality is the overwhelming majority of the members of the Liberal Party are accepting this. A significant group put on pressure. So I think that the Liberal Party has got its house in order. People mightn't be happy with what it is. They mightn't be happy about the approach, but they've got their house in order. Now, the problem for the Labor Party is that they've got to be able to make sure that they keep on board those within their own party who are not very enthralled about the idea of going against all those coal electorates, particularly in far north Queensland. The Prime Minister's managed to get that group of people in the tent. The Labor Party has yet to show how they can do that.
Kerry, Emma, thank you.